taking this beautiful fine art floral class. If you haven't seen how this opens and closes, how cool is that? You have lots of pictures, so hopefully it's clear, but maybe just seeing a visual will help. This is beautiful paper and a very versatile set. So in your kits included with this class was this bucket of gilded leafing. It's beautiful, and I want to show you some techniques today on the best ways to use this. Find yourself a small, like a makeup brush. You could use a paintbrush too, just something very soft. I also find a soft toothbrush can help. Tweezers always help. And I have one of these trays. I got these on Amazon. They have a little plug, so if you're using embossing powder or something, we're not going to take the plug out today. I want to say they're like $10 at on Amazon. And then get like a microfiber cloth and just dampen it. This gilded leafing has so much static electricity in it. This is a good way to wipe down your desk, clean your hands up. And like I said, it's just damp, so you can see maybe that it has some flecks on it. It attracts, something about this microfiber really attracts the gilded leafing, so it helps. All right, the other thing I have is a silicone mat. If you don't have one, I highly recommend you get one. I have some multi-purpose glue, and I have a little piece of sponge. And if you don't have a silicone mat, you could use scrap paper as well. Okay, let's get right into, I'll show you some techniques. I don't know, I have like 4 or 5 of them. I'm going to show you different ways to use the gilded leafing. Only one uses a heat embosser. If you don't have a heat embosser, you can use a hairdryer. You didn't hear that from me. So on this card, I put quite a bit of gilded embossing on the front of this. But we are going to do one with a little less. So I just have my stamped image here. This is the art gallery set that goes with your class if you got it. And all we're going to do is take a Versamark pad. I have the smallest of the stamps, this little one down here, which can be used for the center of these, or it can be used, this can go in here. I'm going to use the tiny one because I just want to add just a hint of gold. I don't want it to be in your face gold. But you know what? You can use however much you like. So I'm stamping it in Versamark, and I pretty readily want to spread some heat and stick powder, which you also have in your kit, over it. And then you can funnel it right back in here, or you can use the little tray that I have picked up. Now, here's my tip. I flick it over, I turn it over, and I flick the back. This gets rid of all the extra particles. Now, I'm going to clean this off because I don't want the heat powder getting in my gilding. And close this up. Now, here's the trick. Before we go and heat this, I've heard a lot of demonstrators say to take this and put it in a big Tupperware container. And while that makes it more convenient to use it, I can tell you that this has so much static electricity that when you go to pop the top on the container, it's like confetti going everywhere. I taught a Gilded Leaf class about 2 years ago prior to us even carrying this, and that was one of the things I learned back then. If you can find a big container that has a screw top, you are better off. I am certain that is why Stampin' Up! Designed this with a screw cover, because as you can see, it doesn't go flying everywhere. I will show you, we're going to take this and put it in here for temporary use and then put it back in the container, and I'll show you a few tricks for that. But like I said, the big Tupperware container, as soon as you break that seal, poof, it goes everywhere. Okay, so now we have our gilded leafing open. I have my little tray. So we are just going to apply a little bit of heat, and it doesn't take much. I don't know how much you can see, but the white powder is just going to get a little bit glistening. You don't want to do too much because you don't want to dry it out. And it's going to be super sticky. So then we're going to take, I find tweezers work best. You can use your fingers, although the stuff does stick everywhere. I find if you're a patient person, I find tweezers work best. If you're not a patient person, you should pour some of this leafing into a container and dip it. And I'm just going to make sure that I have some anywhere that my adhesive is. Now, you can use your fingers. It will adhere to your fingers. You can use a soft brush to kind of push down. Can you see how it's getting really flat really fast? And then what I do is I take my soft brush and I kind of swirl and get off the extra. Now, the other thing that really helps is a little toothbrush. So a toothbrush will have a little harsher effect, will take a little more off than the soft brush will. Like so. Okay? And the other trick I want to give you is we are now selling these blending brushes. And the purpose of these blending brushes is for ink. But you may want to dedicate one to just gilding because this is super, super soft. And it's beautiful in rubbing off excess without harshly scratching the gold. Okay? So that's our first technique. And as you can see, you layer it together. I have a little gold twine on here. I hope you can really pick up that. I'm going to pull the light down and see if I can help us here. Little gold backing, little gold threading, and you have a beautiful card. And you can see how this one has much less gold leafing on it than the first one. It's a matter of preference. Some people would love this. Some people wouldn't even like this much. So it's a personal preference. Okay, I'm going to put those aside. We're actually not going to use that heat tool again. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring my microfiber cloth in. And I'm just going to clean off my brushes a little bit, like so. So I have a clean slate. I'm going to put my paper away. There we go. These blending brushes. If you do the seashell class, I'll be doing a video on using these blending brushes. They are fabulous. Okay, the next technique is, this is a card I already have made. And I don't want a big stamped clumpy image like you see here. I want a very fine image. So I'm going to take my multi-purpose glue. And I'm just going to make sure I get a little bit going here. Okay. And I'm just going to draw a few lines where I might want just a speck of gold. Is that I hope that the video is picking this up. I just want to enhance this. I don't want it to really be the focal point. Just little lines, kind of sporadically, like that. Okay? Can you see that? Can you see where I put those little glue lines? Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side. We want that to dry a little bit. We want it to become a little bit tacky. I guess technically I could use the heat tool and get it a little tacky, but I'm going to just let it dry while we work on some other projects, and then we'll come back to this, okay? So I'm going to put this off to the side. Okay, the next technique we are going to do is I'm going to show you how to use some adhesives to create kind of a cool pattern look. So the first is we can take regular old glue dots. And the thing I love about glue dots is they are already in a straight line. So I am going to just line my paper up with the bottom of my cardstock and push. I didn't get those straight. My paper shifted. So these are going to be crooked. This is not going to be a straight line of polka dots. But you get the idea. Okay. Let me set that aside. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take just some pieces of gold leafing and put it on there. Like so. And again, you could dump this gold leafing into a tray, which we're going to do later in this presentation. I'm just trying to show you different ways to utilize this. This is the neatest way. I will show you the very messy way. And I will say, if you're going to use the gold leafing, my suggestion would be to create several products at once. By the time you take everything out to make the mess, if you're only making one project, it becomes kind of more of a frustration than fun, in my opinion. I'm going to use this little brush, and I'm going to do it over my tray. This is my blending brush again. And again, you could do it with a toothbrush. You could do it with, this is just a makeup brush, like a blush brush. Any of these will work just fine. But some produce a, look at that. I need my microfiber cloth because it's so staticky. Like that. Now, I don't know what happened exactly here. So I'm going to go back in with my toothbrush because it's a little firmer and scrape some of this extra off. It's like there was some adhesive on the paper or something already. I must have had, maybe I picked up a little bit of glue off my table, like from a tape runner. So there you go. You want to be careful with that because then you won't get your nice round circles. Okay. That's what I think happened. I think I had tape runner on the table. So, should we try this again, just to show you that we can do it nice and round? I'll show you one more time. I'm just going to adhere my glue dots. Although I don't have any glue dots over here. I didn't go far enough with my paper, so we'll put a couple more. Like so. Okay. And then we're going to go back in. And we're going to just pick up a few pieces. Plop them on there. The good thing about this gold leafing is the way you brush it off, there's really no waste because the big pieces and the tiny pieces, they all adhere the same way. It doesn't matter if it's a big piece or a small piece that you're putting on. You're just going to brush away the extra anyway. So that's the one beauty of this product. Everything that you scrape into a tray, you keep for later use. Now let's try this again. Yeah, this is better. Now I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and pull off the little flecks that I have. There we go. We get ourselves some nice dots. Of course, I chose black paper because it is ultimately the best way to show it. If I had put it on, you know, yellow or white or something, it wouldn't be quite as clean looking. Okay, now let's take some tear and tape. Have you seen tear and tape? This is the old double-sided sticking tape that's reinvented. You don't need scissors anymore to adhere this. I'm doing kind of a sloppy job at taping. You would want to bring it right to the edge and cut it perfectly. But because this is just a demonstration video, and I'm not going to do anything with this. Okay, now I'm going to show you the messy technique. All right. I like to take my scissors to pull the tearing tape off, just to catch a little corner. Sometimes it's easier said than done. There we go. Speaking of static electricity, these little pieces, it's like the backings to dimensionals. You guys ever work with dimensionals and then you find them stuck to your shirt or on the floor? All right, we're going to do the messier version this time. I am going to pour a good amount in here, like so. I'm going to spread it out just a little. Now, if you want to cover large areas, this is probably the best way to do it. Now, I didn't get it quite all, but that's okay, because I can go back and add more if need be. Actually, it's kind of filling in as I rub it. You can see the static to this, can't you? It's crazy how much static there is to this gold leafing. Okay, now this is where I'm going to take my toothbrush, because your toothbrush has a little bit more of a harsher edge, so it kind of can neaten up edges better. Like this. Now you have a couple different ways you can do this. You can do this a little, cleans up the edges real nice too, the pieces that are hanging up. You can leave it a little artsier, like this, where it has a little more bump and texture to it. Or you can use your finger and rub it and really adhere it to that adhesive the way a brush will not. And make it more of a, I'm going to do the two outside pieces, and then I'll leave the inside piece a little more eclectic, a little more, I'm not sure what the word would be. It just has a more artsy feel. The one that you push down on has a more polished, finished feel to it. And again, oh, can you see what's happening underneath just from the little bit of downdraft? Can you see the difference between those? I hope you're able to see it. The center one has more of a texture to it, where the two outsides are a little smoother. They give you more of an even stripe. So those are just some things you can do, which are kind of cool. Now I'm going to come in here with my microfiber cloth. You'll notice I'm always cleaning off my bristles just to be sure that I'm not like contaminating the other products. Not that it's a contamination. I guess that's a bad word. But it is just easier to clean them as you go so that you don't get kind of like big, gunky stuff going on. Okay, do you like my technical terms? Let's go back to this card. What do you think? You want to dip or you want to place? I'm going to place, I think. And I'm going to look for a couple bigger pieces in here to place, just to make it easier. Like this. Now, once this glue starts to dry, it's a little harder to see. So you're probably going to have to put more on and pull more off. Just so that you make sure you get everything covered. I mean, if you don't get it covered, it's not the end of the world, because let's face it, who's going to see dry glue, right? But if you want the nice pattern that you were planning on having. Okay. I don't think I had any down here. Oh, yeah, no, there is a little down there. Look at that. You can feel the dry glue with your finger. Okay, now I am going to take my finger and press this down, because what I don't want is the glue to get on my brushes. I want to make sure that all the glue is covered until I feel no tackiness on my fingers, okay? And again, you can really save every last piece of this. All right, and then I'm going to come over here with my soft brush. And I'm just going to whisk it away. And again, you can add or take away as much gilding as you want. Does that show? Can you see that? Isn't that pretty? A little more fine line detailed than the first card we did. That was a little, because you were using a stamp, it was more of a filled in image. This would be beautiful, like on a poinsettia at Christmas. You know, anything that you wanted, just a touch of it. And you could almost see how you could do a border on a piece of paper or something like that. You know, you could keep it as simple or as busy as you want. Okay, I'm going to set that one to the side. Now, I'm going to show you something a little different. I pre-did this flower. It comes from this stamp set as well. It's this one here. It's multi-step stamping. I think this was Blushing Bride, and I think that's Mary Merlot, and that's Mossy Meadow. So I stamped that, and I cut that out with the die. Now, I took these Stitch So Sweetly dies, and this is going to be a mask. let's pretend this is going to be the layer on my card. I am going to line these up. I'm going to move my gold away. And I'm going to bring this silicone craft sheet in. And I am going to pop a bunch of glue on there. Like that. And I have my sponge. Now, I don't want it to be globby. Can you see how globby that is? I just want a little bit. And I am going to pull from the outside in. You see what I'm doing? I'm making a mask. Now, this mask, you probably could do a couple cards of this, but you would have to be very careful that the side that was up, you use up again, because there's going to be all glue around the edge. And we're just going to put a lot of glue in there, like this. And you don't want it super sticky, you just want it tacky. Okay, now I'm going to take my mask off. Boy, I didn't get a nice clean shape there, did I? I'm going to go back and get myself a cleaner shape. Not happy with that. I'm going to put a little more glue on here. I'm going to go around the edge just a little more so I get more of a defined shape. I think because I was pulling it in, I didn't get the very edges good. So I want to make sure that we get glue right out to those edges. I'll go back in here. Can you hear the puckering sound from the glue pulling up? Okay. Now, I'm going to take my mask off. That's a little better. And we're going to do the big version of this just because I think it'll be easier. And I'm going to show you how to put all this away later. We're going to just spread it. And I'm going to tip this upside down and push it in there. I didn't get full coverage, so I'm going to go back and get full coverage. Okay. I think we have full coverage now. Now, I'm rushing through this. You may want to let this dry a minute or two, just so that you don't brush off any excess. If you're not careful at this point, I'm going to go back into my blending brush. This is my #1 favorite tool for this. If you're not careful, you can actually pull the gilding right off of the glue at this point. So if I were you, I would let this sit a minute. The way we let this card sit for a minute, I would let it sit for a minute and let the glue dry just a little bit, then put the gilding on, and again, let it dry just a little bit. I'm trying to be extremely gentle so I don't pull the gilding off. I want to pull the excess off. I just don't want to expose the glue underneath, which is what I fear I'm going to do here, because I should have really done this first and let it sit. Okay. Now, again, this is a messy project. I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to take my cloth and just kind of scoop up around the edges. Now again, my cloth's not wet, it's damp. And you don't want to soak your cardstock at all. Then I am going to go in with my finger and I am going to push this down the way we did with the striped tape, because I just want to make sure that this has solid coverage. Okay, and then I'm going to clean this brush off. And I'm going to go in here again. Now, like I said before, the toothbrush is the easiest way to get cleaner, just because it's a little bit harsher. So it does kind of lend to neater edges, like this. I'm going to come in here and do this. And when you're happy with it, however much or not as much as you put on or take off, you can see a little gold there on the edge. Okay, pretty happy with that. This leafing is everywhere, isn't it? Okay. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this off here. when I'm happy with it, I need my microfiber cloth again. So I have these pieces everywhere. One jar of this will take you forever to use. Literally forever to use. So I'm going to take this little flower piece, put some dimensionals on it, and just let me do it like this. And then picture, I need to come in here with this glue isn't quite dry. You really want your glue to be a little drier to come in here and get your edges nice, but isn't that pretty? You know, it's not the focal point, it becomes the background. Put a little banner here with a pretty little words or whatever. Heck, you could even put a stripe there of gold. But how beautiful is that? You mount that onto a card base like that. Be beautiful. Okay, I think we have covered everything. The only last thing I want to cover, if you own a silicone mat and you've never used it, or if you don't have one and you want one, the great thing about these are it can be washed super easy, or let the glue dry and it literally rolls off. Like the way a glue dot rolls off the paper. It's great. Okay, so last thing I want to show you is take your big soft brush and you can pull down all this leafing and put it right back in to your bucket pretty easily. You push down carefully. Slow is the idea here. If you move too quickly, you cause any kind of a draft. It creates a huge, did you just see that piece pop up there? A huge static electricity. And see all these little scraps that go in there? Okay, I am going to use my microfiber cloth to just clear off my brush a little. And then, I know you can't really see it, but I'm going to brush these pieces off the edge and into my tray. So trust me, that's what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to come back in here to my tray, and I'm just going to repeat the process. Like so. And like I said, I know a lot of demonstrators are saying go with a big Tupperware container. My only issue with that is that the Tupperware containers typically have, I'm using my brush to static electricity pick these pieces up. The Tupperware containers typically have a pop top. Screw top is definitely better. If you can get yourself a screw top container, you will be much happier, much less frustrated, and make much less of a mess in the end. So there's my tools, my mat. Oh, I had one last thing to show you. I forgot all about it. So I took a piece of regular paper and I used the sponge method, just like we used for the mat. I took a piece of paper and I don't have another piece of paper here. Well, I'll show you with this. This is the back of this one we used. I took the glue and I put it all over the piece of paper. Now, I chose to use white paper. You could do a dark color like this. I covered it with 100% glue. You could just splotch it so that you saw maroon through the gold. But I wanted a solid color, so I used white and covered it 100%. Okay? Then I used my seashell embossing folder, and I ran it through the seashell embossing folder, and I got a beautiful piece of gold lame. Like, what a gorgeous layer that will be on a card. Don't you think so? I love this seashell folder. So that's another technique you can do. Now, the only thing about this is, if your glue isn't dry, I covered this and I put it right through. So some of the gold leafing stuck to my embossing folder, which is not a big deal. You would get the extra off with a stiff brush, like your toothbrush, to get all the extra off. Then take this to the sink with your toothbrush and give it a little scrub to get it out of the grooves. It's not going to stay permanently, but it's just one more step, especially if you don't let this piece dry good first. That's the key. Let this dry good. and then you won't have as much adhering to your embossing folder. You'll still have a little cleanup, but it won't be near as bad. Okay, so I think that's it. I want to thank you all for taking this class. I had a huge response, and I'm not surprised. This set is gorgeous. So thank you for taking the class. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some useful tips in here. And the only other thing I can say is do not be afraid to experiment. I mean, that's half the fun of crafting, is experimenting and seeing what new things you can come up with these products. So have fun. Enjoy, and start thinking now for your holiday projects, because what would be more beautiful than gold on your holiday projects? Okay? All right. Thank you very much. See you all soon.